First quarter of the NFL season is in the books. We're heading into week 5, and as always, every week I'm joined by Luke Willson for Luke and Luca. Luke, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm changing up the scenery today, Luca. I'm in rural area Washington State right now in a cabin.
You crushed it last week when we did this. Over under on Tom Brady, 2 touchdown passes. You went under, didn't pass for any. Baltimore Ravens over 11 wins. They got a big W, improved to 3-1. So a couple of those are already looking really good for you. Anything you want to say in this open forum about those predictions?
I'm just going to keep them coming. And like I said, I think I should probably be at least around 80-90% on my prediction winning. And we still have that little bet we're talking about, right, Lucas? So we got to figure out with the over-under and Seahawks Broncos stuff. I'm feeling pretty confident, pretty arrogant, a little cocky right now. I'm going to have to, raise the stakes a little bit with whatever you and me are deciding to do.
You know what? A bet is a bet, and if the Seahawks end up with more wins, we will up the stakes, and I will pay up. We're not going to talk about that today, though. What I want to do is talk about some rookie quarterbacks, because this week, for the first time this season, all 5 QBs that were drafted in the first round are starting. So I wanted to give each of them a letter grade just based on how they've done through the first 4 weeks. And look, it's very early. Peyton Manning infamously threw the most interceptions a rookie has ever thrown in his first year, and we saw what he went on to do. So for you, I know you came in when Russ was in his second season, but you've had rookie QBs enter the building. What maybe is the most difficult thing for a rookie quarterback in their first year that has to come in, has to start?
I think the most difficult thing, it's kind of a 2-pronged ordeal, is one, most college defenses are not that complex. When you get to the NFL, some of these defenses are going to throw a ton of different looks at you, pressures from all different angles. So when you have a bunch of guys in a defense that, one, is systematically can understand, multiple pressures, multiple coverages, and then 2, don't really have a weakness, so to speak. It's not like playing college ball where it's like, hey, this cornerback's really weak, we're just going to pick on him all day. You really have to understand the whole picture and in each situation. If you're a defense and you're facing a rookie quarterback, usually you come in and you try and throw as many wrinkles as you can. So what I mean by that is, going back to some of the Seahawks defenses that I was on that were, tremendous earlier in my career, we had a pretty set defense as far as like, hey, we felt like we could come out, match up with people. It's kind of like, this is our defense, you try and beat us. We're so good at playing this defense. However, if we have a rookie guy that we're playing against, it's one of those situations where that week we might throw a bunch of more wrinkles and even different looks just to make it more confusing. So it's tough about being a rookie quarterback, is that although you might be studying a team and, hey, this is what they do, X, Y, and Z, this is their tendencies, a lot of D coordinators will completely change looks up for them just to try and fluster or confuse what that rookie quarterback's seeing.
Belichick is referenced when talking about rookie quarterbacks a lot because his tremendous record against rookies, and that's probably part of it. We saw what he did to Tom Brady. You can only imagine what he does to some of these guys that have never been in the NFL before and now are expected to come in and try and beat his defense with their arm. It must be a tall task. May as well start with Zach Willson then, the guy that Belichick forced into throwing 4 interceptions. He does lead the league in interceptions, leads all rookies in interceptions. But this past week, he got his first win for the New York Jets, his first win of his NFL career, and he looked really good, especially on those deep passes. I know coming out, I think that's what had a lot of people really intrigued with him and hyped up about him was his arm and his arm talent, his ability to kind of throw on the run, to throw those intermediate to deep balls with precision and accuracy like only few guys can. So what letter grade would you give him through the first 4 weeks? Because it's obviously been a struggle, but there have been moments where it's just like, oh, okay, I see the talent there.
I agree. And if we're judging, it's a little unfair, like you said, to judge his first 4 weeks. If I had to give him a letter grade for his first 4 weeks, I would give him a C. That being said, I'm a big believer in turnovers are the major deciding factor of who wins and loses games in this league. So the reason I'm going kind of low on the grade is he has had some flashes that he looks tremendous. Like you said, his deep ball accuracy has been on point, and I do think he's going to continue to finish the rest of the season strong and get better and better every week. When you have that many interceptions through 4 games, it's tough to win. Right now, I'm going to have to give my guy a C, but the future does look bright.
I think I'm going to go C+ just from what I saw the last game. And I know his head coach said We want him to play a little more boring rather than exciting, which is no knock on the style of play. It's more just take some of those checkdowns more. That said, he has thrown more 20-plus yard completions. He's got 15 this year. That's more than Russ, Mahomes, and Herbert have so far. So the arm talent is definitely there, and I think, like you said, the more comfortable he gets throughout the season, maybe understanding that he doesn't have to go for the home run ball every single game, we'll see more of that talent on display with maybe less turnover.
He starts getting a little more comfortable seeing different defensive looks, schemes, coverages. There'll be less interceptions, and the sky is really the limit for him.
Let's move on to the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. Everyone is making a big deal about the fact that he's got 4 losses, and that's the most losses he's had in his whole college and high school career combined, and it's just been something that he hasn't been quite used to doing, is losing throughout his illustrious career. That said, his last game too, we saw those flashes, we saw a bit more running from Trevor Lawrence. What grade are you going with for Trevor through the first 4 weeks?
So in similar situation to Zach Wilson, I'm going to actually stick with a C for Trevor Lawrence. 0-4 is tough. And I think that for Trevor, one of the adjustments that he's now going to have to adapt to is that he's not on a team with the best athletes on the field. You look at Clemson, they play in the ACC. They're not an SEC school. Do they play tough games, tough schedules? Of course. I mean, he won a national championship while he's there. But the reality is, when you go to Clemson, you're the quarterback of that team, you're strolling in there with better athletes across the board. Now that he's on Jacksonville, talent-wise, is Jacksonville in the upper echelon of the league? In my opinion, no. So that's a bit of an adjustment where a lot of the onus is going to be on Trevor Lawrence because he doesn't have a ton of help around him at the moment. Last week, I thought he looked a lot better. And I think that for him, out of all the rookie quarterbacks, there's the most potential for some wild growth in the rest of the season.
Lost twice in his career by 10-plus points, both to Joe Burrow, which was obviously his last game. Pretty unfortunate stat there. But one that is encouraging, I think, is the sack percentage, which is 4.1 right now, and that ranks in the top 10 lowest all-time for rookie quarterbacks. So I think that's a good indicator of the fact that he's getting the ball out quickly. He's not holding on to it. You said it, those monster games could be on the horizon. I hope they are, because it seems like he's got all the talent in the world to live up to the guy that we all think he can be. But part of that talent and realizing that talent and potential comes from coaching. And Jacksonville's head coach, Urban Meyer, has been in the news for all the wrong reasons recently. From your perspective, from a player's perspective, first and foremost, have you ever seen anything like the Urban Meyer situation before where it's a head coach not coming on the team plane? Like, how shocked were you when you found out what happened?
From a variety of different angles on this thing, it's just kind of a head scratcher for me as a former player. Was there ever a time where a coach, let alone the head coach, didn't fly back with the team? Not that I can remember. To kind of leave a Thursday night game, not head on the team plane home, and then seemingly, again, I don't know the details of the situation, but be out partying is absolutely absurd.
As far as winning the locker room back, because I know there have been reports, Michael Silver of the NFL reporting that Urban went in and talked to each position group. One player reportedly said that they all laughed after he said it and left the room, and he just hasn't handled this apparently internally as well as he should have. Is there winning back the locker room in this scenario? Because it doesn't seem like there is from the outside looking in, but I'm curious, obviously you have a unique perspective on this. Is something like this able to be repaired, or is this just fractured kind of beyond repair at this point?
I mean, there's a saying in the NFL that winning cures everything. So if the Jaguars came sort of rattling off some wins, I could foresee them, getting over this. But the reality is at 0-4, and the rumors that I've heard about Coach Meyer is that he's kind of more of a dictatorship situation. It's not really a, Pete Carroll community type organization. It's more of a kind of hard-nosed old school football. So the fact that they're 0-4 and you've got kind of a dictator at the helm, and now, a dictator that's not necessarily living by what he's preaching. Unless the Jaguars start winning, I don't think the locker room will ever really get over it. I have a feeling it's kind of it's going to continue to snowball into more negative things for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I feel like people have been skeptical about this hire since the beginning, and he hasn't really done anything to kind of reinforce that maybe he's a different person and that his culture can fit in the NFL, because it just doesn't seem like it. And there's one quote that really is telling that came out recently in light of kind of the events that transpired. Urban said, the ownership of this team is with the players, and it's up to the team leaders to kind of get everyone back on the same track. I feel like that's just the complete opposite of what it should be. It should be his responsibility because he was the one that messed up.
Like you said, they're the leader of the men, and it's just very, very strange from top to bottom.
Let's move on to our third of 5 rookie quarterbacks. Mac Jones has looked the part. Yeah, maybe he's not throwing the ball down the field, and his passing charts are very different than a Trevor Lawrence or a Zach Wilson, but we saw it on Sunday night. He went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady, and he looked pretty darn good. I'm curious, though, is the fact that everything is so close to the line of scrimmage and not very far downfield kind of what is going to limit this grade from being better so far, or have you liked what you've seen from Mac?
I've actually loved what I've seen from Mac, and I'm going to give him a B. I mean, has he been incredible? No, but the interceptions are low, and I really think that he's doing what he's asked to do. You know, being on a team for a year that kind of had one of the Bill Belichick disciples and Matt Patricia, I can tell you that that is the type of offense that, you know, Bill Belichick wants to run. He wants to run an offense, you know, and if you can end up getting that combination and that concoction going, those teams are always the toughest to beat in the NFL. Teams that don't make mistakes, they control the clock on offense, and they just play great defense and get turnovers. And I know that that's a Bill Belichick style. So in my opinion, Mac Jones is doing all it's asked for him. Through his first 4 games, he's looked good. And I think that as the Josh McDaniels gets a little more comfortable with Mac, they'll probably start to open the playbook a little more and a little more each week. So I'm going to give Mac Jones a B. I think he's looked solid. I think he's done a good job.
We talk about these rookie quarterbacks. The Jacksonville Jaguars and New York Jets are in very different positions than the New England Patriots are right now. So it's understandable that Josh McDaniels' approach, Bill Belichick's approach with Mac Jones and what they're asking him to do might be very different than what Zach Wilson is being asked to do right now, than what Trevor Lawrence is being asked to do right now. I'm going to give it a B- just because I'd like to see a little more of the deep passing and him throw the ball and push it down the field a little more, but it'll come with time. But I think what's telling and speaks to your point is he is 3rd in the NFL in completions and 7th in completion percentage. So this is what he did at Alabama. He was very efficient with the football, and it's good to see that that's translated to the NFL.
You'll see by the end of the year, he's going to have a very, very nice statistical season, and I think the Patriots will be in contention for a good playoff spot.
Last 2 guys we want to hit are Justin Fields and Trey Lance. And I want to group them together because Justin Fields has only started 2 games. He's 1-1. Trey Lance is going to start for the first time after coming in for an injured Jimmy Garoppolo last week against your Seattle Seahawks. Both have kind of been mixed bags so far. I don't feel bad of giving these guys incomplete grades because we just haven't seen a lot. But I guess this is more to say, from what you have seen of them so far, are there encouraging signs? What are the things you've noticed that you've liked? What are the things maybe that are worrisome?
So I'll start with Trey Lance. I'm going to give him an incomplete grade just because, like you said, he hasn't officially started a game. There's just not enough film on Trey yet to give a true judgment of how he's doing. Everybody in San Francisco are very excited about him, and I think this week will be really telling to see how he does, how he handles a full week of preparation, kind of coming in from the opening whistle and being able to manage a game and perform. So not too much to really report on Trey yet. On the other hand, Justin Fields, not to be the bearer of bad news for any Ohio State or Chicago Bear fans out there, but my pre-grade, I guess, is going to be a D. The times he has played, been a bit of a struggle. I believe the first game he might have been 6 for 20. He's not throwing for very many yards. The offense does not have any sort of fluidity in it. Now, is it fair to pin that all on Justin Fields? Absolutely not. You know, that could be a combination of linemen, receivers, running backs, play calling. But on top of that, you know, I think that a lot of people are getting excited because they won last week, when the reality situation is they didn't really beat a good team. So I'm not really as amped up as maybe everybody else is on that win. And I'm not quite ready to board the Justin Fields bandwagon yet. I think that he really needs to kind of show a lot more of his game before I get too excited about that situation.
The Trey Lance one is very interesting because San Francisco fans, you mentioned, they're really excited about this guy. And I'll give him an incomplete as well. I think the thing that makes people excited is the running. And that is just an element of that offense that can take them to different places. But one of the things that's interesting with Trey specifically is since October 3rd of 2020, when he had his last college start, he hasn't started a football game. He only got 1 game in his final season of college football. So he just really is not played, which maybe puts him behind the eight ball even when he does start. And now you're going to throw him into the NFL and be like, okay, this is your first game you're starting in over a year. That could be a little jarring for a young guy like that, I would assume.
The good news about, his situation is he does have what seems like a very tight-knit locker room and a lot of good leaders on that offensive side of the ball. So I'm sure that there's a lot of players that are helping him out, kind of putting their arm around him and encouraging him, which is always nice if you're a young guy. But like you said, Luca, having not played for that long is a huge ordeal. The silver lining for him is there's probably not a ton of scouting tape against him. So if he's got something up his sleeve, maybe he can break it out this Sunday.
Justin Fields, I did like a few things I saw last week specifically, and I know he hasn't played more than 3 games, but he is the highest graded rookie on deep passes. They incorporated more play action, which seems to be his style, hitting those intermediate to deep routes. So maybe Chicago's finding something out here on offense as far as kind of tailoring things to Justin Fields. But you're right, we got to see more of it. I'm excited to see all these rookies going forward nonetheless, though, because it seems like all 5 of them really have a good chance to kind of be really big players in this league for a long time.
I agree. I think that all 5 of these guys are really going to have a lot of opportunities, and they're all fun to watch in different ways. And I think that we'll really be able to kind of go full circle here at the end of the season and give some real proper grades once we have kind of more of what to work with.